This third and final video is Juanita Brown, who is the co-founder of World Cafe. So let's go ahead and view that video. Juanita, what exactly is the World Cafe?
The World Cafe is a very creative way of hosting dialogue where very large groups or much smaller groups can meet together talking about questions that matter to their common future, whatever the situation might be. And it's a vehicle for using the dynamics of network conversation to actually evolve new and unexpected kinds of insights.
So you mean all these conversations are actually taking place on the internet?
No, they're taking place face-to-face. Although we have an internet component, an actual World Cafe dialogue is a face-to-face conversation where people are sitting at small tables, just like in a real cafe, are writing on their tablecloths just like you would write on a napkin. And after a period of time in the conversation, people travel to new tables carrying the seed ideas from their conversation. And if I'm a host, I'll be receiving new people for mine. And as the conversations iterate and cross-pollinate, new and exciting emergent insights reveal themselves because the network dynamics begins to spark exciting possibilities.
Have any actual new ideas come out of this that have actually been useful or practical?
Oh yes, for example, the Museum of Science and Industry has helped in Tampa Bay, Florida, has helped to redesign the museum using World Cafe conversations that have involved citizen participation in the redesign of the museum. They've also been using World Cafe dialogues in terms of developing their budgets and new ideas for how to work more effectively in the future of the museum and what it can provide to the community. So there's a lot of those kinds of ideas. It's also being used in corporate settings, in strategy work, a lot.
Now, how does this get started? Who decides what the topic of discussion is?
Great question. People usually gather in a World Cafe dialogue in order to work on something that they hold in common. So for example, here at the Program for the Future gathering, people are really thinking about what is the future of collective intelligence. It's something they really care about together. And so a World Cafe dialogue might be constructed to focus on what are the most exciting possibilities for the future of collective intelligence that we ourselves might contribute to.
Now, after the conversations, is there a next step? Let's say people gather and they meet to discuss an issue and a certain type of consensus emerges. Does the methodology carry into the next step where the recommendations are followed up on?
Absolutely. I mean, there are ways of using multiple doorways to collective intelligence in a face-to-face way, as well as in the online aspect. This is where, to me, the combination between face-to-face work and harvesting the knowledge online, sharing knowledge and harvesting it together, allows larger and larger circles to participate in implementation and further idea creation, just as we've been discussing here in the conference.
That was Juanita Brown, co-founder of World Cafe. Valerie, I think you've been to a few World Cafe sessions. Do you see it as a good example of collective intelligence?
I think it's a wonderful example of collective intelligence. In fact, that's how I met Eileen Clegg, and
your co-author
the
on
co-author of the book, The Engelbart Hypothesis, and she and I then, after participating in a World Cafe, decided to embark on this what turned out to be 6-year project of having dialogues with Doug Engelbart, and the three of us worked very much iteratively to write down and articulate Doug's ideas, and then we also used World Cafes to get input from other Engelbart scholars.
So you have the cross-pollination, you talk with one group of people, then you go to a different table and you share those ideas with a different group and keep developing something.
Correct, and we actually experimented both face-to-face, as Juanita described, and also there was a group of scholars from 8 different institutions in the United States, Canada, and Europe, and we all would get together once a month and discuss a given topic. So whether it was how to develop and define a dynamic knowledge repository, how to make networked improvement communities, the process of improving your improvement process, or even how do we define and measure collective intelligence. And we would use very much a World Cafe methodology in video conferencing, and then refine our ideas in a wiki. So it was both verbal.
So is it a relatively small group of people? The fact that it's a relatively small, intimate group, does that help a lot?
Well, it's very different. Actually, what's really exciting is the face-to-face World Cafe. So at the Program for the Future, we had several hundred participants all writing down and sharing their ideas, and then we were able to capture all those ideas, and the juxtaposition of the different points of view on the same topic really could spark imagination, and we could get some really new and fresh ideas. And hopefully that will be used in the challenge for the future.
And this sounds like it could easily be done without any particular technology, this basic methodology.
Yes, Juanita Brown's World Cafe all you need is paper and pens. And that's a great first step. And I think that then where Engelbart's ideas come in is that then you can aggregate knowledge across disciplines to really have this broad view, not a narrow silo thinking, but a really broad multidisciplinary view of any given problem, so that you can solve a complex problem and come up with a solution, knowing full well that your solution will create new problems.
And I think World Cafe was even used at the Program for the Future in order to develop the challenge. Bob, in the few minutes we have left, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the Program for the Future challenge.
Yeah, sure. So as part of the 2008 conference, we thought, well, we want to keep this momentum going, and we think that we're at an early stage, and we want to develop some incentive for people to come up with new collective intelligence tools or methods. And they can be complex, and some people think of this as a software challenge. Some people think of it as a working teams challenge. It can be both of those or either one of those. So this is a way for people to actually kind of jump in, throw ideas in, and along the way learn what collective intelligence is. So we're connecting with universities and connecting with different other organizations that want to be a part of this. We're sponsoring a section of time called the Collective Intelligence Week to get people involved. So, I'm glad that she brought up these don't have to be complex tools. I mean, it occurs to me, actually I have an example. Engelbart worked a lot with cards. Some of his early work was just on things like index cards. So before Doug Engelbart worked on the idea for file folders that we all use on our computers today, they use a simple system like card files to store knowledge and to retrieve knowledge. Some ideas like that would be great, because we're at a situation now where a lot of Doug Engelbart's work has been shared by large groups of people, and we think we can go further. So the Program for the Future Challenge is a way for you to do that.
So how does that work? Do people submit entries, and whichever entry is best will become a real museum exhibit?
Yeah, exactly. So if you have an idea of a tool or a method of working that you want to submit as an entry, you can submit an entry. If you're a company that has a problem that you think collective intelligence tools could apply to, you can sponsor a prize. And you can all do that through the site that's linked from the site from the show, futuretalk.net.
Have you got many entries so far? Actually, I think we're hearing the signal that we're just about out of time. Are we out of time? Okay, well, let me wrap up the show. If you would like to know more about any of our guests or any of the topics addressed, visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. I'd like to thank our guests, Valerie Landau, Bob Kettner, Molly McGee. I'm Marty Wasserman. Thank you very much.